Welcome back, everyone. Again, this is Ernesto Mejia from the Cool Speak family, and I'd like to once again welcome you back to the Cool Speak Family Engagement Hub. Uh, One of the reasons that we created this was to try to help our educators to improve their family engagement. And we were actually doing that on the road recently at the NASME conference. We had some sessions for our parents in Spanish, which was awesome. But also, we had a session for our educators on how to improve their family engagement. Um, I think that one of the many reasons this is important to me is because once we get their families on board, things are better for everyone, the educators, the parents, as well as the students. But you know as well as I know that that's easy K through, I'll call it six, for the dances, for the coffees, for the luncheons. 7 through 12, I think it just gradually gets more difficult. So today's topic is going to be making the end of your school year the beginning of your relationships. I know it sounds a little bit confusing, but really what we're trying to do is work on those relationships. And if you're asking me why I keep on harping and saying relationships, 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 who do we like to hang out with? Who do we like talking with? The people that we have relationships with. It's a lot more difficult with strangers. In case you don't believe me, remember the last time you were on the plane and that person next to you tried talking to you. You're like, let me put my headphones on, please. It's not as easy to talk to strangers. And if we're treating our families, our parents, our caregivers as strangers, we don't even know their names, we don't interact with them unless it's something really good or unfortunately really bad, then they're kind of strangers. We don't really have a relationship. So the other reason that it's critical to build on that relationship, it's going to help our students' grades, it's going to help our students' attendance, it's going to help our students' interaction, it's going to help our students' social skills. So this is the research that everybody knows and everybody has seen. However, nobody is really focusing on improving those relationships. So for today's session, that is literally what I want to focus on, considering it's the end of the school year. So we're going to give you 5 simple tips, as usual, just 5 simple tips, all right? The first one, recap some highlights of your school year. You've had a great school year, and even if you're saying, well, it wasn't that great, something happened that you can recap over the course of that school year. A special event, an award, a recognition, maybe even a recognition for your school or a school grade or something of that nature, okay? But also maybe even just the school grade or students' grades, okay? When I say recap some highlights, and let me be clear, let me rewind a little bit. I'm giving you these 5 tips, but from these 5 tips, just pick something that works to have a dialogue with our families, or our parents, our caregivers. I'm not saying go over all 5 of these. I'm not saying use all of the ideas that I'm giving you. Pick one that you feel might work for you to then start talking with our families to help build on that relationship. So, going back to recapping some highlights, special events, personal growth by the student, and anything that you're doing here to build that relationship, you have to talk about the student. You have to know the student. And if you're saying it's impossible for me to know them all, I agree. But it's not impossible for you to talk to their educators, their teachers, their counselors, their advisors, their coaches to find out, hey, what's an improvement you've seen from X student? What's something that I could tell a parent that would make them feel proud? You can get that from them. But cover any of those things with a recap of some of the highlights from the year, because how many parents don't want to hear, hey, let me tell you how your child grew this year, how they improved this year, how they made a difference this year, how they were recognized, appreciated, anything along those lines, okay? So tip number 1, recap some highlights. Tip number 2, set some summer goals. Now I know what you're saying right now, like, well, that's just too much for me. I don't need to get involved with their summers. If you're wanting to build a relationship, you're just making suggestions. It doesn't mean that this is what they're going to do. It's just a suggestion from you. And to become the resource that they need, you need to give them some suggestions. So, one of the big summer goals that I always had with Jorge and Sofia was summer reading programs. They're free at your local library. And with technology nowadays, you don't even need to go to the library. You can get it online. However, one of the areas that our students struggle with is reading. And if you can't read the material, you're definitely not going to retain the material. You're definitely not going to be able to recall the material because you're stuck on page 1 or 2. So create a summer reading goal. I actually text both Jorge and Sophia and asked them, what do you think one of your biggest accomplishments was over the summers in terms of books read? Jorge said, I think I read 100 books once. I'm pretty sure he's lying, but hey, good for him. But I think he was close. I think he was like at 80 or 90. And for Sophia, I think it was like 40 or 50. But now that they're older, they're in college, one of the things that they'll say is like, you know what? I didn't really like that reading. I thought the recognitions and the prizes at the library were kind of cheesy. A pizza party, a discounted food or discounted snow cone, a little cheap toy that probably cost them like 20 cents. But that's not what it was about. It was about them working on a skill set that they were going to need to succeed in life. Reading. So setting summer goals for reading. Setting summer goals for working. If you're going to work, how many hours? Setting summer goals for earnings. You want to teach our children how to start investing and saving at a young age? Have them start setting goals instead of just working to buy those shoes, to buy that phone, to buy that car, because that's the typical. If we want to change the routine, let's start helping them. So setting summer goals is tip number 2. Tip number 3, summer options. Now, again, you're probably thinking, how does this relate to relationships and me? Because you're becoming the resource in giving our family some ideas to do or implement over the summer. Why? Why is this important? Before I go into summer options, here's what all parents, okay, the majority, I won't say all, but the majority, are going to hear. I'm bored. My phone's dying, which means my life is dying. The internet's down. What are we doing tomorrow? Or can I leave? Can I go somewhere? Those are things that they're going to hear all the time. But again, if you're helping our families become better, work better, understand one another, communicate with one another, it's a win. And if you become that resource, I might come to you later asking you for help, asking for your input, asking for your support. And you can then come to me as the parent caregiver asking the same of me. So let me go into the summer options again. What are the expectations? Why am I saying expectations? Remember what I told you is going to happen? I'm bored. I didn't do my chores. I'm only playing on video games, my screen time. All these things are going to happen. If we set those expectations early and start working on those habits early, we might have a better summer. We might not even fight as much. We might actually enjoy our time with one another. But it's our job to try to help our families. Family time is important. We always talk about it. We always talk about the importance of eating meals together. Who's planning that family time? Who is actually planning that family time? And if you make that suggestion or that recommendation to them, hey, let's sit down and talk about 4 things we'd like to do this summer. I remember again with Jorge and Sophia, come May or June, I would sit them down and say, all right, give me a list, 10 things we'd like to do this summer. And of course they'd say ridiculous things like, go on a trip to Australia for a month. That wasn't going to happen. But I'd find a way to maybe get them to learn about Australia or talk about Australia or try some sort of food that's from Australia. But there were things that were very feasible. Can we just play at the park? Can we go to the movie at the park? Can we go to the movies and can I invite a friend? Can we play games? Simple things that they want to do, but sometimes we don't realize it. And we think that because they don't cost money, they don't care for them. But that might not be true. So find out what we can do for family time. Work also. For some of us, some of our students are ready to work 40, 50 hours. But then they're tired all summer and start the school year off tired. We need to talk about that. We need to try to help them balance that time. Help them understand, yes, we know money's important. Yes, we want to show discipline. Yes, we want good work ethic. But we also want balance, mental health. We want our students to start fresh. So keep those things in mind. And again, the summer option that most of us don't want to hear, but gather yourselves, focus, summer school, summer programming, summer camps, summer learning. All of this can happen. In some cases, maybe even a class at the community college. Maybe even just growing your skill set in something that they like or something that your student likes. And for an educator, you get to say, hey, you know what? I noticed that little Bobby was really into cooking. And I know that the community college is going to offer a 2-week course. And I don't think that there's a fee, or maybe there's a $50 fee. Maybe little Bobby would like joining that. I just wanted to put that out there for you as a resource or as a possible summer activity for you all. Okay? So those are summer options. Now, how to prep for the next school year. If you're like me, when you hear that, this is what that means. School starts Monday, Friday or Saturday, we should probably go buy school supplies. It's a little late to start planning for school a day or two before. But if we can teach our families and our parents and our caregivers and our students to start planning in advance, that's a skill set that their child can take the rest of their lives that's going to help them be better, do better. So when we're talking about planning for the next academic year, for the next school year, let me give you some ideas. What are some of their academic deficiencies, areas that they struggle in? Let's do something with that. And I don't want you to do overkill with it. Make it simple. Here was one of the rules that I used to make with my kids over the summer. You know what? You want to play video games? Cool. You need to clean, and you need to read for 15 minutes. Do what you want for the next few hours. They did something productive to earn something that they wanted. Isn't that how life works? Let's teach them this skill set. Let's help our families teach them this skill set. When we're talking about how to prep for the next school year, in many cases, they already have their classes already. So they know what classes they need to take. So why don't we then, if we know those classes, if we know what we're going to take, why don't we then start preparing for it? Maybe reading in advance. Maybe finding out what that textbook has. Maybe reaching out to the teacher over the summer. Something as simple as that can help them improve in their grades. And extracurriculars, obviously. Finding out how to, get involved. You can do that early. Okay? Now, the last one is probably the most important one, hence the reason I left it for the end. Thank our parents and caregivers. Typically, when we receive a phone call from the school, it's because something went bad, child got in trouble, and or something went well, got a recognition. Where are we in between all of those all of the time? Let's give them a call to say, you know what? Your son's been showing up every week. You know what? They haven't missed a homework assignment. You know what? They ran for student government and they didn't make it. But man, they got out of their comfort zone. What a great job you did preparing them. Great marketing, great, poster boards, great strategy, whatever it was. And even though we didn't win, I think we're still winning at life, and we need to celebrate that with our parents. So pour into them. Make me feel as a parent that I'm doing a decent job. Make me feel as a parent that, yeah, my child doesn't have a 4.7 GPA, isn't the class president. But you know what? They're showing some skills. They're showing some promise. They're showing some growth that's going to help them. And it's going to help them get them across that finish line. And again, highlight how they've done well. It's a recap of everything that I said, really. Highlight any of those things with our parents. But all of this for the sole purpose of helping you build a relationship. Now, it's not a call of, hey, we could really use you this summer. Hey, I really need you this fall. Can you please show up? If that's been working for you, then continue doing that. All the educators that I talk to, it's not been working that well. So it's time to switch it up, build that relationship, and talk about something. Recap some of the highlights from the school year, set some summer goals, just discuss some of the summer options, help them prep for the next school year, and lastly, most importantly, pour into them. Thank them. Appreciate them. Even if it's something as simple as, Mr. and Mrs., fill in the name. I know that you were only able to make it to 2 of our meetings last year, but those 2 meetings that you were at, you were appreciated. Your input was great. I really do hope that you can help us out some more next year. So I'm looking forward to seeing you at the next meeting. And have that fall kickoff event scheduled now so that our families can put it in their calendars and there's no excuse about not knowing when it is. Again, these are just simple tips. We're trying to keep it short, easy, straight to the point. And here's the beautiful part. We'd like your input. We'd like your feedback. We'd like to know how we're doing. So within the group, if you do me the favor of watching this video, I'd like to hear what you took away, what was beneficial, something that you plan on implementing. But more importantly, we'd like to hear your questions. And within the Facebook group, we're going to post some options for the next meetings for each month, obviously, and even over the summer, we're still going to have them. And we'd like your input. And if you have an idea for a Facebook Live discussion topic, share it. And if it's within my wheelhouse, I'm happy to deliver on it. Thanks again for tuning in. Please share what you've learned. More importantly, recruit other educators to come and be a part of this. And if there's any questions, comments, input, please share it. I'm doing this because I want to help out. I'm doing this because our families matter. And I know that that's why you're doing it as well. Thanks again. I appreciate you for tuning in, and we'll see you next month. Take care, everybody.